So the first thing that we are going to look at is we're going to look at some updates that we've made to the home menu. And these updates were made during the April 29 update 2016. And we also made a recent change in the January 16, 2017 build. I'm including this build, the latest build, just because it kind of falls over December/January, so that we can count it towards 2016. Let's have a look at the feature. So if I go into my CaseWare financial statements, when you update your, when you connect to the latest KLIB, what you're going to see is you're going to see that your home menu has an update. I've already updated mine. And so I usually recommend whenever you do update, first thing you need to do is just update your home menu, because then it brings in any new additions we've added. One of the additions that we did add is that we've created the complete all admin updates, which means it's just one button and it will look at any statement that has the yellow status indicator, and it will just update them in one go. Right, so you can just click on it and it'll just update all your statements. Then another thing that you would notice that we've added with regards to updates now is, and I'll show you once this is done, it shouldn't take too long, is that we've also now added another indicator right at the bottom of the list to show if there's any updates available for your notes. Okay, so in the past, what would happen is we know we need to update our statements, but then we have to go to our notes and go and look for each note. So sometimes we forget that we need to update the notes. Now we've just added a little notification at the bottom to let you know that there is updates. And what we've also done is at the top, we have added a little notification there as well that there is updates available even if you don't have your admin button showing. So I'm just going to show you here. So even if you don't have your admin button showing, you can immediately now see, once you've updated your home menu to the new version, you can immediately see that there is updates available for that. Okay, so that's what that does. Also, just another small feature we added to the home menu is for those of you who do log on using remote assistance when you call support, we've just added a shortcut to go to assist, so you don't have to go into your browser and type it in. So that's just a small little feature we've added in there too. Okay, so just to show you, notes and policies, so it just tells you that the notes and policies, that there's updates available. Once you start, oops, sorry, wrong button. Once you start reloading your notes, and you get the latest version, which is the January 16, 2017 onwards, any notes that now have updates in the document map will also be flagged with an asterisk next to it. So you don't see it now because it's still, I haven't updated my notes, but if you update if you update to this latest update, and there's an update next time and that note needs to be updated, that note will be flagged if it is a newer version. Right, so just if you do see the asterisk, don't panic, that just means it needs to be up, there's an update available for that note. Okay, and then the next one is, and just get back into my presentation here. Staying in the financial statements, the next one that we also have added throughout the year is the ability to support PSAB financial statements. Note that this is only available when using the 9-column statement format, and you would have had this since the April 1st update. So what you'll do, and then you just go back. In the home menu, when you are switched to the 9-column statements, okay, so you can see I'm switched to the 9 columns. Under your client profile, you now have the option to switch to PSAB statements. That will change obviously any references to PSAB in terms of your entity, owners, and that information. And you'll have the statement of changes and accumulated deficit, as well as adding the statement of changes in net financial assets, okay, which is mostly a manual input cell, and but you also have the ability to link certain lines to it, right? You can link either balances, which is indicated by yellow cells, or you can link final balances, which is indicated by green map cells. And this ties back into your financial position. The financial position immediately switches to unclassified. It splits it into assets minus liabilities is your financial debt. That will tie back to your net financial assets statement. And then you also have the non-financial assets where we try and link, where we've tried to link those items that would generally fall under non-financial assets. So you do have the ability to be able to link that. Okay. Just a quick question, can anybody still hear me? If you are having any issues with audio, what I do recommend is maybe switching over to phone, and then there is a dial-in code in there. Okay. Right. So this is just showing you the statements and the amendments that we've had for PSAB statements, or net financial debt or assets. Okay. The other change that we've made was we now changed from the generic 2-column schedules to the generic 9-column schedules. So this is a statement that has existed, but we've now just updated it to give you the ability to use 9 columns instead of just 2 columns. So just to go back to our file, and just to give you an idea, you'll just insert it as a normal schedule, and from the drop-down menu now, instead of selecting a generic 9-column with subtotals, you're going to select a 2-column with subtotals. You're going to select a 9-column with subtotals. Just some things to remember about the schedule, that if you have updated your statements since the schedule was introduced, one thing that you need to just remember is that the old 2-column generic schedules won't hook up to your, might have issues hooking up to your income statement, so you'll have to delete that statement and just reinsert the generic statements if you are linking it to your income statements, especially when you're using the 9-column format. The other thing to remember is that, and this counts for any 9-column schedules, is that your schedule columns, if you are linking it up to your main income statement, the columns that you assign in your schedules needs to be the same as the columns that you've assigned on your main income statement. So just bear that in mind as well. But now you still have the ability, okay, as well as the balance sheet, because it also now hooks up, because it also hooks up to the balance sheet. So the column selection on your balance sheet and your income statement needs to be the same, or on your schedule needs to be the same as the column selection on your balance sheet and your income statement. Right. You still have the ability to choose up to 6 sections. You can still use the grand totals. It'll still give you the running totals, which means that you can add the sections together or subtract them from one another. And it just now gives you the ability to go and tailor each column with the settings you want for that particular column. Right. And then just what we've added is you also just have the ability to show a comparative row at the bottom. So those are just the main highlights of the new schedule. We have also added external schedules, which means that you now have an additional 10 schedules that you can add to your CaseWare, your Jazzit file. So currently you can add only up to 20 schedules. You'll see that if you click on the Insert Schedule from Resource Center button, you now have 30. Just one thing to note is that schedules 21 through to 30 are external schedules, which means that they actually hosted outside of the Jazzit file and the Jazzit financial statements. So what you'll have to do is, if you do want to use the additional 10 schedules, you'll have to copy them in. When you update, you usually copy it in the KLIB and in the GenMass. Okay, we're not going to go into that, but just copy them from your master file into your client's document manager, and you can then use them with the financial statements. Okay, so just to go in and just show you just the small difference between them, and I'm just going to go back here. So when I select Insert Schedule from Resource Center, you'll see you have 20. So I've already inserted one, but you have 22 all the way through to 30. So you can insert that. When you insert it into your Jazzit file, this is what it looks like. So it actually shows you that it's an additional schedule, and it shows you the little case view document. You can still double click on it and you can work on it. If it's in the document manager, it still links up into your statement menu, so you still have that option in there. And if you double click on that little link, it'll actually open it up in a separate tab. So you can see at the bottom of my screen, it's a separate document, and it has all the other features. So you can see at the top, I have all the same type of formats that I would normally have with my schedules. I can still link it to my income statement and my balance sheet depending on the schedule that I'm using. I've got all the features. The only thing is, when it comes to notes, you'll have to manually reference the notes from the drop-down menu. So that's the big difference. Just things to note is that in your document settings, each statement format will have its own additional settings. So if it's not bolding, you can bring the current bolding in from the financial statements. You can load the underline from the financial statements. The footer 1 and footer 2 is linked to whatever is set in your financials. And if you want to update your headers and footers, we have a button there. So you'll just need to reload any headers and footers if you do make a change to your headers and footers. Like I say, it's the same schedule that you're working on, it's just hosted outside of the financial statements instead of part of the financial statements. Okay. Then, and this is more of an improvement that we made, or not really an improvement, just an addition that we made to the old ratios schedule that's been in the file for a while. We now refer to it as a key performance indicators, and we've added graph support to the document. Okay, so you can add it as a normal schedule, and through the insert schedules from Resource Center, so I can add the key performance indicators document. Like I said, it's also just a schedule. Double click on it. I'm being a bit fast for my computer today. Double click on it. It gives you all your analytical information that you need. You can go and set up the columns. We have given you options for to support different periods. You have the option to display, print. We've now built in something that was added after we changed it, is the ability to show month and day. Okay, so you can show your month and day if you want, and you can choose whether you want to show graphs only, data, or graphs and data. And then to the right of the analytical summary table, you can choose which summary or which item you want to show a graph for by just checking that off, and at the bottom you'll see you'll have your graph details. Right, so you can choose, once again, each graph will also have its own options that you can have a look at, things that you might want to skip, changing things like scales. So you can just go through that, but you do have the ability to now show graphs. nice little bonus that you can throw in the file, into the file. Then we've made updates to our account analysis document. So we've made some significant updates to the document. So if I go into, oopsie, sorry, let me just close that. If I go into my document, I have my account analysis document open here. What we've done now is we've given you the ability to show up to 5 years worth of information. You have some display options that you can go through. You can set the columns up in terms of what type of information you want to show. You can go and set the threshold amount, so to only show the line items that are above 8,000 or a specific percentage. Right, so that is a way for you to be able to just filter this down here. And then you've got the map numbers, so it's all linked to map numbers. You still have the ability to insert your own rows and delete your own line. And this is for both balance sheet as well as the income statement. Okay, and then you have the option if you want to just show balance sheet or just income statement. What we did do is we gave the ability for you to be able to choose whether you want to use this as a working paper internally or whether you want to use this as a client, like a client submitted form, like you want to show this to your clients. So if it's a working paper, it just keeps the standard working paper format. So when you're printing it, it gives you the sign-off and the document number and the references and all of that. And if you change it to a client version, it clears all of that information out and you just have your headings and the threshold amount. So it cleans it up a little bit so it's more presentable when you want to present it to the client. Okay, so we do give you that option to do that. Right. And I'm just going to close the financial statements. And I actually closed the wrong one. Oops. Okay. Then we've also added an accrued liabilities working paper. Okay, so you'll see that there's an accrued liabilities working paper. It was added in August 26th update. And just to quickly show you what that looks like. Okay, you'll see now that you have up to 5 sections. Once again, under the settings, you have the option whether you want to show comparative figures, yes or no. And that's just the line at the bottom. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. And you can just add your accrued liabilities in here. Oops. You can set the date. You can set the amount. Oops, that's a bit much. Was it recorded before the financial year end, yes or no? And it'll calculate the days that it needs to be accrued. My year-end date is back in 2013, I think. And it'll calculate the accrual if there's an accrual that needs to be calculated, right? So you can just look at that. Let's actually just set an actual date here. Okay, so you can see it then calculate your accrual, and then then at least you know that's the accrual that you need to take into consideration. So that's just the accrued liabilities working paper. Then we do have generic checklists within the Jazzit Fundamentals files. We've updated the checklist with the year, yes, no, working paper references, comments, and multiple check marks. So we've added a working paper like that. And you can see also it gives you roll forward options. So we've updated all our generics checklists within the Jazzit Fundamentals package to have roll forward options for the columns, as well as the ability to skip the sections or to hide the sections, so you can collapse and expand the sections as you need that. And you also have the option at the top to sort the procedures. For letters, we've added the wording for private and confidential to the letters. To be able to access this, what you'll do is you can go and set that up in your diagnostics report. Right, so in your diagnostics report, this is something that you can set as an admin default. You'll see that we've added it to the diagnostics report options. If you leave it unchecked, what that means is that the preparer can go and set that confidentiality notice on the letters individually. So in other words, if they want it, they'll have to go and set it on each letter individually. Or if you as an administrator want to go and control that globally, you can do it in the diagnostics report. You can choose whether you want it to be on and off as a default. And if you click on, you can then go and control how you want it to look and feel. So this does it globally. The preparer won't be able to change it on the individual letter without having to come back to the diagnostics report and having to change it on the diagnostics report. Okay, but if you want them to do it on each letter individually, then I do recommend unchecking the checkbox so it makes it available on the individual documents. So just to show you what it would look like, what it looks like and where you can find it, if I go into my engagement letter, you can see there's my confidentiality notice. It's currently set to on. The user, the preparer is now able to change it because it's not set as default in the diagnostics report. But that's what it looks like, and if I go down to my letter, you can see it's there, right? And this is on all the letters where it's needed. Okay, and the next thing is then with the engagement letters, the next thing is then what we're looking at, just some of the more top features, and this is something that has been requested for a while, and that's the ability to be able to change the section heading formatting. Right, so that's the ability to change the section heading formatting. So what you can, what you do is when you've updated since the November 25 update, you'll notice now at the top of each statement and each schedule, besides the 9-column generic schedule, and I think there's some of the other schedules that might not have it where it's not relevant, obviously, you have the ability to go and change bold, uppercase, and in some cases you have the ability to change it to singular or plural. Okay, so just to jump into this financial statements here. If we look at the balance sheet and we go into the statement settings, you'll see that you have the ability to bold, unbold, uppercase, lowercase, and so as the headings come along, you can just go and change that and change the format of that. Right. On the income statement, do you want singular or do you want plural? Once again, uppercase, lowercase. So you can go, and obviously depending on which sections it's printing, it will give you the option for those sections. A further enhancement that we have made, just adding on to that, is that you, with this latest build, you'll have the option to go and set your financial statements header customizations in your KLIB. So when we're referring to headers, we're talking about like the screenshot you see here is the balance sheet in US funds, the date, and the audit C notes to reader. So this gets controlled in your RD firm profile. So for you to be able to have that functionality, you would need to request a new RD firm profile from us, and for you to also have that ability, it would mean that you would need to go and make sure that every single statement within your financial statements is updated to the latest bold. Okay, so it can't be a selective updating. It would have to be every single statement would need to be updated for you to have this. But then at least that gives you the ability to be able to globally control the financial statement headings going forward. Right. And at least if you make the change in the RD firm profile and you update, it won't change those settings because it's controlled from the firm profile. So just to show you a quick live presentation of that, I am going to open up my KLIB. I'm going to go into my firm profile. And right at the bottom, you see that you have the option, and that you'll have the option to set that. So you can say select none. Might help if I unlock it. Okay, so you can go set select none. So that just clears all the formatting, and you can go and select that as you go along. So notice that as I select my options, it actually gives me a print preview of what it's going to look like. So, you know, you're not going to be surprised when you see it and you're going to be like, oh, I don't like it, and then you have to go back and make your changes and reload. So at least this way you can actually see as you make the changes, right? So I'm just going to go like a little bit extreme here. So once you save your firm profile, to bring this in, as I mentioned, you would need to go and update all the statements to the latest January 16 bold, or 17 bold update. And once you've done that, you can then go to admin, just click on the admin button because it will then reload those changes that you've made. And if I go into my balance sheet, you'll see there's my changes. So one thing that you would notice if you do use this new format is that the headings now work a little bit different. So whereas previously you had a pop-up menu that gave you a list of options, it doesn't. You don't have an input cell anymore. So all that you do now is you just double-click on the title, and you can now go say and you can now change it to an alternative option, right? So you can do it there, or if you look at the statement settings, you can just choose a selection from the drop-down menu under the statement settings. So that gives you that ability. Like I said, you can do it. It's on the income statement, statement of retained earnings, so all your statements and your notes where you have that headings, you'll now be able to control the formatting from the firm profile. Okay, just going to repeat it. If you do want to make use of this feature, you would have to request a new firm profile. So you can just contact support and we can help you with that. And you would also have to go through updating every statement within your client file and your master files. Okay, and the styles. You'll have to update the styles as well. Just some honorable mentions that I want to go through is one is just the Marketable Securities working paper. We've now added supports for up to 8 income and 8 and payment types. So you now have options for 8 income, 8 payment types. And just to show you at the bottom of the screen, you can just see that that's just what the summary of income and payments will look like. So it will also translate to all the sections where you need that. Then also on the marketable securities, working papers, we've now split the reconciliation section between realized and unrealized gains on foreign exchange. So if you do have foreign exchange and you complete your transactions as you go through, it'll calculate if there is it'll calculate what the realized loss or gain is, and it'll calculate if there's an unrealized gain loss on foreign exchange. And then for the engagement letter, the year-end checklist and the client representation letter, you'll see that it added the option for providing client letters. So now you have the option to choose whether you're providing the client with financial statements and a tax return, or whether you are just providing the clients with a tax return. Right. So just to show you, if I go into the example file, and I'm once again just going to open up my engagement letter. So you have corporate tax return only. So if you look at the body of the letter, it will, anywhere where it will refer to the where it will refer to that wording, it will change it to corporate income tax instead of financial statements. You can also go, and because it's a blue cell, you also have the ability to go and type in your own wording. So if you're not providing them with any of the two, you can just go and type in your own description in there, and it will update the relevant sections. Then some enhancements we've made to the engagement letter, the client representation letter, the client enclosure letter, and the other documents is JZL1, is you have the option to go and switch on the row on and off switches, as well as you now have the option to go and update sections from the resource center. So once again, this is a question we've had before. You have your engagement letter. It's set up the way you want it to be in your client file. But there is an update, so you do want to take the update because it's something that you may need. So instead of now updating the entire letter, you now have the option to only update a specific section. So if we've updated management responsibilities and you want the new wording, you just need to update that section. You now have the ability to only update that section, so you don't have to update the entire document. Okay, so just to show you once again in the letter, is under the template specific options, under those mentioned letters, you have the option to display or hide the row on and off switches. If I go to a section that has them, I can now just click and it'll hide. So what's nice about this is if you are tailoring a letter, you don't have to go and delete the existing lines. You can just switch them on for whichever ones is relevant for your particular engagement or for your client. So you don't have to go and delete the content. You can just switch them off. And you'll also notice that any numbered content, as I switch it, the subsequent lines off, it'll renumber those line items. Okay, so you don't have to redo the numbering either. And then just on the right click, update section from resource center, you can just click on the option, you can say yes, and you can just run the update through that. So that's just, it works similar to what we've done in the client enclosure letter, where you can choose what you want to update. I'm going to say no because I'm not going to run through the update. Okay, and you can say yes or no. Just follow the prompts. You can click on the check mark to accept it, and it just asks you every time, are you sure you want to do this? You know, just so that if you kind of decide last minute that maybe you don't want to, then you have the ability to not go through with that. Right. And then, as I mentioned, with a generic checklist, we did add support for roll forward options. So if you want to retain your assertions or your check marks or dates or comments, you can set that up in the options of the document. And you also have the ability to expand or collapse, to show or hide procedures that aren't being used. And then we've also added an investment income document, so which also can calculate which also looks at the gross tax credit. So you can just go and add all your information as is. You can add more lines if you need. It'll give you the total investment income paid for the period of the current year. It'll show the previously reported, and it'll show the total investment income to report. So this is just an extra working paper, and you can just add your rates at the top, so your gross up rate other than eligible, and your tax credit, and it'll then do the calculations as required. And then last but not least is we've now added the ability to be able to show maps, only the KLIB map numbers, or to be able to show the FRMLIB and the KLIB combined. This is just for when you have those circumstances where you have, you know, I don't know what the correct wording is for that, so just pardon me on that, but when you have a client that has both a farming operation and a like a normal corporate operation, I would say, and you want to be able to show an income statement that has both combined, like one income statement, then you have the ability to show the KLIB maps and the farm maps on the same income statement. The only thing that you do need to take into consideration is you would need to have the farming mapping in your file for this to work. If you don't have the farming mapping, then obviously you can't map any of your accounts to that. So you just need to make sure that you add your farming mapping into that file as well. And then just for not-for-profits, we've made a small change where you now have the option to go and select whether you're referring to fund balances or whether you're referring to net assets. This does not change your statement of financial position. So if you want your statement of financial position to say statement of fund balances, that's something you would have to change. However, it does change your statement of net assets into fund balances, and then any other references that would have reference to net assets will be changed to fund balances. Okay, and this was added in the October 14 update. Now, just to kind of go through keeping up with some of our new updates, just to how to keep on top of it, if you log into the jazzitsupport.com webpage, you'll notice that there's a series of recent posts, which means that this is just updates that we've recently posted. If you're not sure about certain updates and whether or when you want to see them or what they do, you can go into our archive. We've archived up back to like 2014, and under each year it'll give you the month, and you can go through you know, if you wanted to see what updates was done in that particular month. So you can just go through that. Also remember, our updates is cumulative, so whatever build you have at the, or whatever update you update to now, you'll have an accrual of all the updates that we've made throughout you know, throughout the months and throughout the year. So you don't need to go and update January's update and then October, and then December. So you can actually, if you now update January 17, you will have all the updates that we've discussed today, obviously, and more. And then if you need help updating, we usually do run updating webinars once, maybe every second month, but those are limited, so, and it usually goes really quick. But if you prefer just self-paced You can go onto the jazzitsupport.com website. Under the support articles, there is a PDF of steps how to update if you prefer reading, and we also have a video posted on how to update, so you can go through that. So it does go through from updating your KLIB all the way through to the steps to update your client file. And that is it for this webinar. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask them. You can use the question box, and we'll hang around for another 10 minutes or so just to ask if you have any questions. Okay, thank you so much for attending, and good luck and have a wonderful day.